All right, here we are for another example. And what I have here is a little piece of music that I have entitled Grim Pots. And this is kind of a mashup of a theme in Harry Potter, it's Hedwig's theme, if you will, and Grim Grinning Ghosts, which is a piece of music from the Haunted Mansion ride in Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom. While I was kind of mocking this up, I realized that the chord structure of both of these songs are fairly similar. So I have some ideas from both in here. And so let me play it down for you, and you can get an idea of what this sounds like. So there you have it. It's pretty short. It's kind of an A section and a more different A section, if you will. What we have going on here is we have cinematic strings, and that's kind of providing the background. And then I have some other instruments loaded up in Kontakt here. That's what you're hearing at the beginning. That solo melodic instrument in the beginning is a clarinet. Not the greatest sounding clarinet, but just kind of sketching out some ideas here. Kind of the big thing that I was trying to do here is these fast string runs. And particularly when I was kind of listening to the music in Harry Potter, what's titled Hedwig's theme, there's kind of this delicate melody. That's also kind of the main kind of Harry Potter theme, I think, when people think about the theme to Harry Potter. Bum, ba, da, da, da. Okay, I don't want to actually violate any copyrights there by singing that. So, you can look that up. If you listen to it, it's kind of got this delicate melody, and then they have this really frantic strings in there. It almost sounds like kind of a whirlwind, like you're standing in, I don't know, like a tornado of sorts. And so that's what I tried to emulate here. And let me show you what's going on here. This is the violin. I will tell you what's particularly difficult to do these string runs, and that is to get them to sound right at a very quiet dynamic. If you listen to the music from Harry Potter, the string runs that you hear also, I believe they're doubled with some woodwinds. It sounds like flute and possibly clarinet in there. But they are very, very light. They almost hide under the melody until the string run kind of jumps up when it gets like really frantic. It kind of has these, it's almost like it pokes its head above the water and looks around for a second and then goes back down. And so that was what was kind of tricky in getting these right, because it's not terribly difficult to get these string runs to sound great at kind of a mezzo forte level. They sound great, but getting them to sound great at a lower dynamic, particularly challenging. Now, it's possible that I could have just mixed these down, but I was trying to do very little of that and just kind of work with the dynamics as best I could here. So let me play you just what's happening in the violins here. And see, it's a whole bunch of notes. What we have rhythmically is we have kind of a eighth note triplet for the first two measures, and then it switches to 16th notes. So I don't know if that made too much sense there, but let me play it down for you and you can hear what it sounds like. You can see what's going on here. I have a couple of MIDI control lanes, if you will, in the piano roll. The bottom one is a mod wheel, which, like we looked at in some other examples, controls the level of the half trill samples. And then here, the velocity controls the level of the staccato samples. And so blending those together to get this to sound right is very, very tricky, because let me just show you here. I'll copy this, I'll move it down here, and then we'll mess with this one. So if I just bring this up and then I select all this jazz, I just bring this up. Actually sounds pretty good. Now, if I was going to really kind of drill down and make this more the way it was kind of sounding in my head, what I would do is I would take these sections, now drop those down, and do the same thing here. And so we get this kind of, and maybe make that a little more subtle here, maybe kind of a ramp up to this, like this. That kind of idea there. So where we take these, and this is quieter, and then when it gets in that really fast 16th note run, they just kind of erupt. The trick is, though, that at this level, without doing any kind of actual fader mixing, is just too loud. And so it's not tremendously difficult to get it to sound reasonable at this level. But the thing that was tricky, the thing that I found was particularly tricky, let's see what this sounds like. Maybe we could ramp that up a little bit right there. And that kind of ramps up too late, so maybe do like this. And obviously this mod wheel stuff would be a lot easier to do using an envelope with recontrol MIDI, but I didn't here. Just to keep it all kind of in one thing here with the velocities, because you kind of have to adjust these together. When you bring down the velocities, you want to make sure that you're hearing these half trill, and the staccatos have to stick out just barely over the top of them to get that bite. But you don't want it all staccato. That's not exactly it. And so you can see by just kind of doing like this, we can get it pretty nice. And I'll finish this out here so you can hear the difference between what I had before. It's kind of this kind of messes with my accents a little bit, but let's get that nice and low here, and then kind of ramp that up right at the very end here. So we don't want to explode, but well, that starts at measure 24, and I'm beat 2 there. So let me just scooch this over, and we'll slot this in here where that was, and now we'll hear what's going on here with this other string part. And this is more like I had it before. And so you see, at this volume level, let me swap these back. At this volume level, when those strings jump up there, they're just too much. And so that's why I really had to work and bring these down, and it was a real kind of almost cat and mouse game. You know, I'd lower the velocities here, and then I would lower the mod wheel data here, but every time I'd have to just kind of adjust it just a little bit to get the balance just right, because it's a real delicate thing to be able to have it. I wanted those to just kind of jump over there. And so initially I just had the first violins doing this, and then I thought, you know, it might sound good to kind of reinforce this to get some viola action in here, you know, maybe an octave lower. So, and this is a good bit sloppier actually. The spikes in this one I left just a little bit higher to help kind of punch up the sections where I needed those runs to just rise above the rest of the instrumentation. You can hear it, it's a little bit more herky-jerky here. I kind of left it like that. By itself, it doesn't sound very good, but when it's combined with the other string thing that I had, with the violins, it just helped to push those little peaks up over what was going on. Because once you get a bunch of stuff in here, you know, it can get thick, but I wanted to have those strings be delicate. So in the cellos, you can see another example here where I threw in recontrol MIDI, and I have mod wheel here selected on the third channel, could have been the first channel or the second channel. It doesn't really matter. I just needed one of them. And I loaded that up here in the track automation, and I drew in basically what I wanted it to do. Just a little light kind of phrasing, crescendo and decrescendoing happening in there.